Hello guys, I'm back from another video and today it's about what if Bell was a B.O.W. So, in the last video we talked about how, after Dr. Ragnar brings out one of his B.O.Ws to basically fight Bell and the rest of his, friends, he would basically start fighting him. So, this gigantic ass B.O.W would start resisting, but thankfully Bell and the rest of his team, or friends, basically defeat it. But the B.O.W would basically start mutating, transforming into more of a humanoid form. After proclaiming itself to be much more superior than everybody else, Dr. Ragnar would basically kill it with a similar seal to the Rising of the Shield heroes like Servant and Master seal. I can't remember the actual name of it, but it's basically like a slavery like spell. So, after he escapes in a puff of smoke and also Bell getting damaged, or at least getting hurt by one of his, brand new attacks, which apparently he injected himself with like several of his brand new viruses, including a virus which he calls the Ragnar Elimination Virus. So, after everybody's basically just like, partying it up and maybe even deciding to just like play around a bit, Bell would just be in the tent basically resting. As Tione, after seeing that Belle got, hurt because of her, she would start crying, saying that it's her fault for getting Belle into this. But Belle would just tell her it's not her fault, as he was pretty much happy that he was, helping her by basically sacrificing himself. So after Belle basically rests up, he would basically come out and sees everybody partying, and everybody's basically just like in a good mood in general. Bell would just take off his mask, letting everybody see his, true face. Everybody was just like disgusted, but most of them were positive. Because, after all, Bell basically saved everybody. And it doesn't matter what he looks like. After all, there's several furries over there and elves, so why not? So, as everybody's basically celebrating, knowing that they're gonna be making it to the 59th floor, but unfortunately it's already been conquered by Dr. Ragnar. Dr. Ragnar would now rule it as their new, kingdom. A kingdom that he would be ruling as a newborn. Which is basically, that's what he's calling himself. So, a certain person would arrive, which is now basically affiliated with the guild, as he would start looking around, as he would see one of his, Xeno friends, which, if I forgot to say this, one of the Xenos are basically there, and they're basically being turned into a certain little B.O.W. So, after seeing all this, he would also see several people being turned into B.O.Ws, now being controlled by Dr. Ragnar. After he escapes, he decided to go to Oranos to basically report on this. And because of this, we basically ended off the episode right there. So, after that little explanation, let's talk about what happens next. So, we go to this shadowy like figure basically going into one of the rooms, as he would say this: Oranos, I have a really urgent report for you. As he would lay down, basically just like bowing to him, as Oranos, being the god of the guild, or at least the ruler of this guild, would say this: So what is it, Fel? As Fel would say this: We saw, I saw, the 59th floor. It was taken over by somebody else. As he would say this. Mind telling me who it is? As he would say this: Somebody by the name of Dr. Ragnar. Not only that, he's been turning these people, these random civilians, into these monsters. He calls them B.O.Ws, but other people call themselves, or at least the populace called themselves, the Reborn. As he would hear this, he would say, interesting. He would keep explaining, saying that they're basically there to basically cause chaos and wanting to take over Orario. Or at least that's what he thinks. As when there's this, well, Oranos was quite concerned, as he would say this. So, mind telling me a little bit more? As he would say this. Yeah. Apparently they're also wanting to get Bell, or more specifically, the Bell from the Loki Familia branch. As he would say this. You mean that Bell? The Bell that they've been learning about since after he joined the Loki Familia. As he would say this. Yeah, um, do you perhaps know him by any chance? As he would say this. Not personally, but I've been hearing stories from Loki that he was quite powerful for being a level 3, and I'm quite interested in him ever since I learned that he's from another world. As you would say this. You mean another worlder? Ah, this is gonna be, as you would say this. Yes, quite an interesting ride. Now, I should be leaving. I'm gonna be reporting this to the rest of the other gods. And as for you, I want you to report this to the exploration team that's planning on going to the 59th floor and telling them to get out of there. Because soon there will be a war, and a war even greater than anything else. As he would say this, and also, as he would look at Fel, as he would say this, what is it, my old friend? As he would say this, the Xenos, all of them were killed except me. Not only that, he's planning on destroying all of us, destroying the other gods, and making them go back to heaven no matter what. As he would give off this almost grim expression, saying, What? As he would say this, yeah, it's scary and concerning. As he would say this, you should be going Fel. I'm going to heaven and speaking with the other gods. So yeah. So Oranos would basically disappear with a flash of light, and as for Fel would basically disappear as well. So, let's go to a different perspective. In this case, Oranos, and he's gonna be talking with the other gods. Shall we? So, Oranos is basically sitting on his large, pure white throne, as he would tell the other gods to come here, because he needs to discuss something, especially with his little, well, ally over there, Loki. So, when all of the gods arrived, except for one, being Hestia. After all, Hestia doesn't have any Familia members, so why does she need to join a little meeting? Because, it's mostly for gods that already have Familias. So, he would say this. So, I'm here to tell you that somebody, and I mean someone, is planning on destroying the rest of us, the gods here. As everybody would start, whispering and talking to themselves, saying, what the heck is going on? What does he mean by they're planning on destroying the gods? As Loki would say this, what do you mean by that, Uranos? As he would say this, well, Loki, have you heard of this name before? Dr. Ragnar. As he would look up, being, Loki, I meant she would look up with a surprised look as she would say this. How do you know his name? As everybody would just look at her, as they would think, great, Loki caused mischief again. As they would think, yeah, probably Loki's little antics again. As she would say this. How do you know this? I thought Belle and I decided to. As he would say this. I have my ways, Miss Loki. Now, I want you to tell all of them about a little situation, because I learned from one of my spies. Apparently, the 59th floor was taken over by Dr. Ragnar, and he's planning on making a coup against the gods. Not only that, he wants to end the gods' rule over here, and wanting it destroyed, wanting it to be turned into dust, wanting it to become a world of only humans, or more specifically, his own humans. As when she hears this, she would say this to herself. Well, shit. As he would say this. So, apparently my spy told me that he's called a reborn, or otherwise known as the B.O.W. As when she hears this, she would say this. You mean those B.O.Ws? As everybody's basically looking at her at this point, saying to themselves, how does she know those things? Or what the heck are B.O.Ws in the first place? As Apollo would say this. What does he mean by that? As Loki would say this to herself, and basically just like sighs. Well, I guess the truth has finally gone out. She would sigh as she would explain, saying things like, Belle is basically a B.O.W. that's basically protecting everybody, and also wanting to protect humanity itself, and also wants to help the gods as well. Not only that, she would also explain the origins of the, Umbrella Corporation because Belle decided to tell her after getting a little bit more trustworthy to him, in his eyes, at least. So, after hearing all of this, a certain medicine god by the name of, I'm probably gonna butcher this, Miak. I, I don't know the pronunciation, but I probably butchered it, so I'm just gonna go for Miak. So, Miak would say this. So you're telling me that this kid was experimented on and turned into a tyrant or whatever it's called, a B.O.W. that specializes in assassination and also it just mind boggles me. As one of them would say this, being Freya. Quite interesting. So Loki, why didn't you tell us the other gods about this boy? As one of them would say this, being Ares. Yeah, I wanted him. Besides, after knowing that he's quite powerful, I really wanted him into my army. I want him now. Now, now! Almost acting like a kid, as Uranus would look at Ares with this almost glaring look. As Ares would stop, as Takemichizuchi would say this. I can't remember his actual name, so I think that's his actual name, as he would say this. So, this kid was a part of a program known as the Umbrella Corporation, also known as the world's most powerful manufacturer of biological weapons, and turned himself into one, or more specifically, he was forced to turn into one, thanks to that Dr. Ragnar guy. As she would say this, yep, pretty much. As one of them would say this, and not only that, says, I can't remember her name, so let me just check. And Hermes would say this, and you're telling us that he's pretty much just a weapon, and only just wants to protect humanity? Ah, thank God that he got. Thank God that we actually have him on our side. As Loki would say this, more like my side. And not only that, he just wants to actually feel like a family. And after bonding with us, he basically wants to protect us all. As all of the gods would just be wide-eyed hearing this. As Ares would say this. Hmm, sounds interesting. But the only thing that they know about right now is war. So, please tell me, Uranos, about this war. As he would give off this angry look, as she would say this, I meant he. Apparently this man, by the name of Dr. Ragnar, wants to take over the world, and not only that, wants to proclaim it as a world of no gods. Everybody would just stop talking as they would say this. A world of no gods? That's just blasphemy, says one of them, as a certain, elephant wearing faced man would say this. Yeah, this is as he would look pretty terrified, as Loki would say this. Yeah, and I'm planning to stop him. Wait, what floor is he in exactly? As Uranus would say this. For floor 59th. As she would say this. But that's our... As everybody would realize that their familia is planning on going there. Knowing that that place is basically conquered by him. And not only that, it's basically his own kingdom. They're basically doomed. So, let's go back to a different perspective, being, our main character's perspective, aka Belle. So, yeah, let's go back to him. So, Everybody, including Belle, is basically walking through the dungeon, basically finally making it to a large clearing. And this clearing would contain a large cave, which has a light at the end. As everybody would realize that they're finally here, the 59th floor, uncharted, undisputed, it, I meant undisputed territory. They're going to be the first ones to discover this. So, Belle would say this. Alright guys, let's prepare. As everybody starts bringing up all of their weapons to get ready in case of a battle again, as for the rest of the mages and also the rest of the people there, they start getting ready as they start going into the tunnel. When they're halfway there to the, kingdom of, Dr. Ragnar, a person would basically arrive there, being Fel. Fel would look at all of them as they would realize that it's Fel, as he would say this: Halt! I won't let you get near here. After all, this place is quite dangerous, and the gods told me that you should probably stay back and go back to where you belong, back on the surface. And especially you, the Loki Familia. As everybody would start looking at the Loki Familia, as Bell would look at him, as he would say this: We want to keep you safe, or at least I want to. And we're planning on going there with some more firepower. So leave now. As Bet would start charging in at him, as he would basically create a large, flame blast at him, using a large blast of fire which he creates from a punch. After doing this, Fel would just look at him as he would say this: Ah, hello there, Mr. Bet. I heard that you were quite angry and a bit of a bit of anger issues. As he would say this: What did you just say? As he would start creating flaming hands, as he would start charging towards him once again, as he would say this: I told you to get out of here. As he would create a blast of black energy, telling everybody to get out of here immediately. As they were too late, they would hear the sound of hounds, more specifically, B.O.W. like hounds coming towards them. Bell would start charging in at them as he would start slashing them with his, sword and with his gun. And as for the rest of the Loki Familia, Bet would start using his fire to start burning them as, you know, um, wait, wait for a second. Eyes would start using her sword gun to start shooting them and impaling them and shooting them and also slicing them apart with her, blade, part of the, gun sword. She would start using her gun pretty effectively, in fact. She's basically a master at right now. And for, Tione would start using her, large, almost buster sword to basically slice all of these monsters pretty slowly, but pretty powerfully, basically knocking them out in an instant. As when everybody starts running away, they would be teleported away by, you know, by, Fel. As Fel would say this: So, I'm glad that all of you are okay. As everybody would start looking around, realizing that they're in the middle of the, city of Arario. As everybody would just think, why are we why are we basically teleported back? As one of them would say this, being, Bet. What the hell? We've been going through that dungeon for a long time now. And then we decide to go back to the surface? Why is that? As he would start looking at, Fel, as Fel would explain, saying that apparently they were already beaten to the punch. Or more specifically, beaten to, discovering this brand new, undiscovered territory, or more specifically, the 59th floor. Apparently, in the 59th floor, apparently Dr. Ragnar literally has his base of there. After hearing about this, Bell would starts being a bit angry after learning that that place is basically a place filled with terrifying BOWs. And not only that, these BOWs were either captured people or maybe even children and random civilians that were basically caught in the crossfire of the Ganesha Familia event, or more specifically the Ganesha Familia wait for a second, Monsterphilia event or incident. As when Bell basically just like shouts, "So why didn't we? Why didn't we?" As he would say this, "You are not ready. Besides, I want all of you to be safe. And also, the rest of your gods are going to be assigning you to something much more important. Because this, this is going to be war. And a war that's even going to be even greater than the last wars. Even much more terrifying than your typical war." As when everybody hears this, they would start tensing up. As Bell would say this, "I'm not afraid. Not anymore, at least." As he would say this, "Quite a brave boy you are. But you should start leaving. After all, the villagers are probably pretty angry at you for disturbing them." So, as every single familiar member starts leaving, they would start leaving. And as for Bell, he would start going with, for the rest, like with the rest of his familia, being the Loki familia. When they arrive back at their base of operations, Loki's there, basically just like angry at herself. As Bell would arrive, he would say this, "So, what is it? Our goddess." As one of them would say this, "Yeah, what is it, Loki?" As Loki would say this, "Hmm, I should probably tell all of you about this." So, after knowing about, a bit about what's happening in the 59th floor, everybody would be told that they should get ready because a war is going to be brewing soon. And this war is going to be quite bloodsheddy. So, every familia basically around Arario and also the neighboring countries would be informed of this, as they would be told to bring out their most greatest fighters and warriors, spellcasters, assassins, basically everything and above, to basically get ready because this war is going to be bloody. So, Belle would start training Eyes in her, firing of her, gun part of her gun sword, as Belle would start training with, with the rest of like the other familias in the, area, or more specifically in Rario, to basically try and become a little bit stronger. At this point, he's now a level 5. And he's been learning how to use his, knife and his little gun, and with his Dane's Leaf. His Dane's Leaf would become a bit, damaged over time as he would get an upgrade, making it much more easier to carry and able to shoot out multiple, rounds. Bell would be upgraded with a new, wait for a second, would be upgraded with some new skills, including his Devour skill, which is basically, a level, above now. And not only that, he would gain a skill known as Full Regeneration, which allows him to heal anybody in his vicinity while he is healing. Like, it's basically like he basically heals himself and anybody around him about like a few kilometers away would basically heal as well, but mostly his allies. So, Bell would basically start training and training and training more. As for Bet, he would start becoming a little bit more nicer to Bell. And as for the rest of the familias, and specifically the Apollo familia, apparently some of the Apollo members would be killed because of a certain person basically deciding to go at a war at them. More specifically, a simple, I think it was called the, wait for a second, a simple war game, which apparently ended off basically just like killing the, Apollo familia. More specifically, the Ares familia decided to try and fight them so they can get more members, which after doing that, they would basically become even more stronger. And as for the Loki familia, they become even stronger thanks to Bell, mostly to Bell, as Bell would become much more efficient in his, ability to use his, B.O.W. like abilities. And as for Tione and Belle, they started blossoming a bit of a more, let's just say more touchy relationship. Take a guess what does that supposed to mean? So, let's go back to Belle, shall we? So, Belle wakes up in the middle of the day as he would basically just start stretching as he would realize that he's basically shirtless except for his, boxers or shorts or whatever. As he would see beside him is, Tione. Belle would basically smile as he would basically kiss her on her head, or forehead specifically, as he would start changing his clothes with, Tione basically waking up, as well, also changing her clothes. So, everybody is basically fully geared up, getting ready to go to the 59th floor to destroy this threat. So, as everybody is basically gearing up, one of them, specifically Tiona, being the sister of Tione, would say this. So, how's your relationship with Belle? As Tiona would say this. Oh, well, we sort of became, as Belle would say this. Hey Tione, as he would give off this nice smile, this heartwarming smile, as she would start blushing a little bit, as Tiona would say this. So, when are we, or at least, when am I going to become an aunt? As when she hears this, she would start blushing, including Belle, which everybody notices as everybody started laughing at them, including Bet, as Bet would say this. So, are you not ready to, do that yet? As Belle would start, nosebleeding, thinking of the thought of, you know, you probably get what I mean. As Belle would start nosebleeding, as for, Tione, after hearing that comment, Tione would start nosebleeding as well, as every single one of them would basically start laughing, but except for Belle and Tione. As Tiona would say this. I think we should probably stop laughing. Now, are all of you guys ready? As Belle would say this. As I'll ever be. As Belle would bring up his knife, basically saying this. This is going to be a fight to remember. So everybody, let's do this. He would unsheath his knife, putting it on his, side, as everybody starts going outside, seeing the rest of the other members of, of several other familias. As a representative for the, guild would tell everybody about their mission in defeating the large and terrifying tyrant, aka Dr. Ragnar, and stopping him at all costs. So, after this, everybody would start leaving, or more specifically, start going into the dungeon, as everybody would be teleported in front of the entrance towards floor 59th. So, everybody would basically have a deep breath, or more specifically, take a deep breath, as everybody knows that they're going to try and defeat this big threat. Some of them even think that they're going to die. Some think that they're going to live. But most of them would think that they should do this to protect their families, friends, lovers, acquaintances, and many others. So, they swallowed their pride as they go into floor 19th. So, unfortunately, this is going to be the end of this episode. So yeah, I hope you liked the video, comment, and subscribe, as I hope you see you guys next time. So, hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye.